Hey everybody, welcome to your horoscopes for the week. It's official. These are the first horoscopes that end in 2016. Specifically, they're ending on the 2nd of January 2016. Now this is a big week as far as energy because this is a week of no retrogrades. Not one planet is in retrograde all week long. Uranus's retrograde just ended, and we're kind of sort of in between Mercury and Jupiter's retrograde. So this week we are retrograde free, which means we're all moving forward. So let's enjoy that forward movement, everybody, because we all know it doesn't last forever. They got to go retrograde again at some point, and they will be pretty soon. But of course, we're going to get right to the specific horoscopes, and we're going to start, as we always do, with Aries. Uranus's T-squared position with Pluto and Mars is coming to an end this week. It has been kind of a humdinger of an aspect, and any time that Mars is in this kind of an aspect, especially in opposition to a planet that's in your sign, it's going to cause frustrations. And being that your own ruling planet is in opposition of a planet in your sign is tough to begin with. It really makes it difficult to use Mars energy in the right way, unfortunately, and it often gets taken over by frustrations and things like that. But this is the last week as Mars is about to move out of that aspect towards the end of the week. But just as he moves out, the moon moves in to take his place. So the moon moves into opposition with Uranus. Now, what happens with this is this has been a very tough aspect. It's been having you question different relationships, especially your professional relationships. And this really is where we get to the big part of it. If you haven't dealt with these difficulties or these situations in terms of these relationships, this week's aspect is going to really force you into doing that, unfortunately, especially when you're talking about the moon being part of this aspect. Now, last week the moon was a part of this aspect twice, the beginning of the week and the end of the week. Now it's official at the very end of this process, or this T-squared position. The moon's really going to be a big part of it again, and it's really going to cause some frustrations and really just force you to deal with these. If it's a communication thing, if you have to talk to them, if you got to boot them out of there, whatever it is, it's time for you to deal with it. The truth is that when you're talking about your career goals, and Uranus's position in your sign right now is really all about different things that you've gone through on an emotional level to begin with. Old stuff, old baggage that sort of comes back to haunt you when you're looking at new things. When you're in this position and you already have these goals, you're full speed ahead with them, you've already got your own doubts, now you got people coming in and they're sort of seconding those doubts there. And what's going to happen with this is it's either going to make you or break you. You're either going to stop doing what you're doing because they're proving that it's not going to work, or you're going to say, enough's enough. I have enough problems with my own what's going on in my own head and my own heart right now. I don't need to deal with your stuff. What you really need to do this week is put that I don't really need to deal with your stuff down there right now. You do what you need to do, because the truth is, when it comes to your career, it is time for you to stand in the spotlight. So this week is all about being the ram that you know you can be, despite what anybody else has to say about it, despite all of the external difficulties and situations that are going on right now. This is all about you guys. And of course, your rams. Are you going to let anybody tell you what to do? I don't think so. So you guys have a great week with that. Taurus, this week is a prime opportunity to really look at and evaluate some of those old patterns, old emotional patterns and emotional mindsets that you've been hanging on to for way too long now. We all have them. Everybody has them. But the truth is that Taurus is being ruled by Venus. They're very much like Libras. Rather than saying anything, or speaking how they feel, they keep it in themselves and they don't say anything in the hopes to just smooth out the situation. And what happens with that, unfortunately, is the situation continues to go on and on and on and get worse and frustrate you and make you miserable in the process. So these old patterns, like worries over financial responsibilities, difficulties in relationships, etc., even your own difficulties in your relationships with yourself, and we're talking about past experiences, things that you just haven't let go of. This week is a prime opportunity to really take a look at some of those things and really evaluate them. Really take a good, hard, truthful look at them with integrity, knowing that you are doing this for a reason. You are looking at these situations because you don't want to deal with them anymore. Now, this is a good opportunity for you because you're going to put yourself in a place, a positive place, to be productive for the beginning of the year. So any kind of resolutions that you're making or goals that you're setting at this time, you're in a perfect place to be able to be productive in those goals, rather than allowing these old mindsets and these old things to hold you back and keep you from moving forward. Now, of course, you want to do this at the beginning of the year because it's a brand new time. There's always brand new possibilities. It's kind of like a brand new year of opportunity. You do not want to bring your old baggage into these new opportunities. So this week, take the time to really look at them. Not looking at them in a way where you're going to beat yourself up over making mistakes, but look at them and understand where they come from, why you felt that way. Let go of the feelings, really take the lesson from those situations, and be ready to come into 2016 with a bang, like a bull in a china shop, if you know what I mean. So you guys have a great week with that. Gemini, you guys are going to be finding yourselves kind of doing a little bit of a walk down memory lane this week as these different memories and situations from the past are starting to kind of sort of pop up everywhere. Now, whether these are thoughts in your mind that pop up and take you back to these times, or whether it's certain circumstances that mimic past experiences, whether it's past failures where perhaps you did something and it didn't quite work out the way that it should have or the way that you wanted to, or even joyful memories can really be kind of sad, especially if those times or those people or those things that you did at that time don't exist in your current reality anymore. Now, Geminis are not necessarily known for being emotional beings, but that doesn't mean that they don't feel anything. And like Aquarians, may put on a nice brave face, but of course you're not fooling anybody, okay? Everybody has those feelings, and whether we choose to wear them on our sleeve or not, they're still there. Now this week it's really, really important to look at those past experiences for what they are. Of course, they're learning experiences, and even past failures, there's always a lesson in those experiences. What did you do wrong in that particular instance? Did you choose the wrong people to help you out? Did you make a mistake? Did you try and push through it too quickly instead of letting it kind of sort of blossom in its own time? If you can identify those mistakes, then you know that if you try and do that again later, you can avoid making that same mistake. That's how you learn. Mistakes are not the final end of a situation. They're just a way of saying, it's not going to work that way, let me try it a different way. As for those old memories, they may be beautiful and definitely hold a lot of people that, may not be there in your life anymore. Or different instances of things that maybe you used to be able to do, but now you can't do anymore for whatever reason. Whether it's an illness that took place or an injury or, just plain old, we've gotten older and we just can't do that anymore kind of a thing. Now, when it comes to those kinds of things, those are beautiful gifts that nobody can take away from you. And it means that you did something at some point in your life. Now, it does not mean that you're not going to do anything anymore, right? It does mean that you were able to do this, you were able to have that time with that person. Maybe that person isn't around anymore, but there's still plenty of opportunities and amazing people to both work and play with in the future. So this week, as you're taking that walk down memory lane, rather than going to a place where you're maybe wanting to beat yourself up over it a little bit because maybe you made some mistakes or maybe you missed those people or those times, look at them for what they are. Look at them as opportunities for learning, opportunities for growing. You had some fun, and then look at the present time and the future as more opportunities for growth and learning, because the truth is You're not dead yet, and you're not done yet. There's still so many awesome things ahead of you that you need to do, and just because you can't see them yet doesn't mean that they don't exist. So you guys have a great week with that. Cancer, this week may be all about having some thoughts about making changes in the home this week, and that's a beautiful thing. You can make wishes all you want to, but wishes aren't really gonna get you anywhere, if you know what I mean. You gotta come up with these ideas, of course, and then be proactive and take the steps to get things done, of course. Now you can sit there and you can think about these ideas all you want to, and you can look around, you can go, I wish I could do this and I wish I could do that. And perhaps money is the problem, or perhaps leaving the situation is a difficulty for you because of whatever. But the truth is that the more you pine for things, the more you're just driving yourself crazy is what you're doing, really. This time around, it's a brand new year, it's brand new energy, and it's time for you to make the changes that you want to make. Get out of wishing and start doing some of these things. Now, you can't make some of these changes? That's perfectly fine. Put those ones on the back burner for now and make the changes that you can do. Come back to the back burner ones later when you either have the money or you have the opportunity to make those changes. But this week, it really is all about getting out of that I wish I could spot, because the I wish I could, it's just not going to do anything for you, unfortunately. You have to have the ideas, you have to make a plan, and you have to start making some things happen by being productive and being active in the situation. Trust me on this. You're going to feel so much better knowing that you're actually working towards the goal of what you want to do, rather than keeping it in your head and hoping that someday you can do this. Hey guys, I have a little bit of a clue for you. Someday is never going to happen. You got to start making things happen now. And it doesn't have to be overnight. You got all the time you need. You got all the time you want to do it. Take your time, enjoy the journey, enjoy putting it together, enjoy making this masterpiece out of your home, and doing whatever it is that you want to do. So you guys have a great week with that. Leo, the moon is going to kick off this week in your sign, and it's a little bit of a good energy and a not so good energy. But we're going to start off on Sunday, and she moves into opposition with Mercury, and this is going to create some friction when it does seem like everyone and everything is just getting in the way of your career goals. And specifically, the madness is really making it difficult for you to communicate your goals, period. It's almost like you just can't seem to find the right words in order to make people understand that this is what you want to do. And it does put you in a bit of a difficult place, especially with those that you love, when you're trying to get them to understand that, you know, they are important, of course. People, those that they love are the most important people for Leos, period. But at the same time, they're not the only thing in a Leo's life. There's so many different aspects to every individual's life. Now, the good news is on Mondays, the moon still continues to be in your sign, but moves over just slightly. She moves into a much better position, a grand fire trine position, as a matter of fact. She moves into that grand fire trine with Saturn and Uranus. Now, grand fire trines are energy. It's all about getting things done. And Saturn is showing you your responsibility to yourself, to your own growth, to your finances, while Uranus is really showing you your past ability to be independent about things. Now, a perfect example of this, of course, is a woman with children, right? Before you had children, you could do whatever you wanted. You could get up and go whenever you wanted. You didn't have to make arrangements for babysitters or anything like that. And then, of course, once you have kids, everything you do, including going to the store down the street, has to be planned out ahead of time, or it's a major production to go anywhere, right? Well, this energy is really boosting you forward and really showing you that you owe it to yourself. You have a responsibility to yourself to take care of your goals and dreams too. And you can't let those that you love become the excuse that you're fear is looking for in order for you to stop yourself from that kind of growth. It's just not going to work for you. Besides, you owe those people that you love that very valuable lesson of moving forward and believing in what it is that you can do when you think about it. And if you're teaching them that using them as an excuse not to move forward, if that's what you want to teach them, well, then that's what they're going to do when they grow up. And by that time, you're going to be looking back and wishing that you had taught them that the sky was the limit, really. So this week, as the moon kind of sort of kicks things off and makes a little bit of a difficulty, remind yourself one thing. Those that you love, they're always going to be there. And just because you want to make some advancements to your career does not mean that you can't rearrange your schedule and still make those people a priority in your life. They're always going to be a priority in your life. You're Leos. That's what you do. You make those people a priority in your life. But you can still have other priorities too, because you wear the crown. So you guys have a great week with that. Virgo, the moon's moving into your sign this week on Tuesday, as a matter of fact. And as she first comes into your sign, it's a little bit of a difficulty as she moves into T-squared position with Neptune and Saturn. And this is going to create one of those difficulties where you feel that old financial pattern in your life. You know which one I'm talking about. The one where you're broke and you feel like you're in this financial hole and there's no possible way that you're ever going to be able to get yourself out of this being broke hole there. But as she moves on a little bit on Wednesday into conjunction with Jupiter, she's going to get out of that difficult aspect and move into trine position with the Sun, Pluto, and Mercury. And this is big time now. This is a much better aspect, reminding you that when it comes to these types of things, when it comes to money, when it comes to any difficulty at all, what you're willing to do on a daily basis is really what's going to make or break your success. Now, of course, if you're sitting around with your head in your hand and you're worried about it and you're, I'm always broke, that's not productive. You're not doing anything. You're going back to that Virgo need to worry about it, which does nothing. It does nothing but putting a hole in your stomach and give you anxiety. That's all it does. But if you spend every single day making sure that you do something to fix this situation. Are you out of a job? Spend every day looking for a job. Every single day, I mean. Eventually, you will get the job that you need that's going to provide you with that financial assistance. But you can't sit around thinking about it, because sitting around thinking about it isn't going to do any good. You've got Jupiter's expansive energy there, and the moon is there ready to tell you, look, this is deep, this is what you want, this is what your heart wants. It's time to get out there and get what it is that you want, Virgos. Because really, when it comes down to it, you're Virgos, hello! You get what you want anyways every single time. And you're going to get what you want if you're willing to put the work into it. So you guys have a great week with that. Libra, Mars is about to finally move on out of your sign and move out of that really difficult T-squared position with Uranus and Pluto. But just as he moves on out of there and breaks up that aspect, the moon moves right into it at the end of the week, making this already difficult and pain in the rear aspect even more difficult, as of course we add some emotions to it, right? And you know, we all love emotions every now and then, especially those air elements. Now, this week, this aspect is really going to be a humdinger because it really feels like your plate is overflowing. And when you get to this point where you just had enough and you can't take it anymore, it's going to make you want to feel like throwing that damn plate on the floor, throwing your hands up in the air and saying, you know what, I'm done with all of it, and walking away from it. Just not dealing with any of it at all, period. Because this is the point where it has become so overwhelming for you that you are literally just done dealing with it. Now, the good news is that as Mars is moving out of your sign, he's moving into trine position with Neptune, really showing you just how much support you do have. So what are you supposed to do with this support? Hello? delegate. It really is time for you to stop thinking that you have to do everything and start delegating some of that to other people, because people are there to help you out. All you need to do is ask and be willing to give it to them. Now, let's not worry about how they do it, okay? They don't have to do it your way necessarily. Don't worry about how they do it. Just be glad that they are there to help you out and support you. And of course they'll ask, and if you have to fix a couple of things later, then just fix a couple of things later. But delegate that stuff out. It is a wonderful feeling knowing that you are not responsible for the entire world for 5 minutes. And you know what? You really do deserve to not have to feel like you're responsible for the entire world for at least 10 minutes or more. So you guys, ask for help. It's okay. It's not going to be, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that, oh my God, shocker here, you're human just like the rest of us. You guys have a great week with that. Scorpio, how about some luck this week as the part of fortune kicks off this week in your sign, bringing you some financial luck, which we can all use a little bit of luck with money. And it's perfect timing too, just as Venus is grand sextile with Jupiter, Pluto, and the sun is about to break up. Now, Venus is leaving your sign this week just in time for Mars to almost jump into your sign this week. He's right there on the cusp by the end of the week, ready to kick off next week in your sign with a big burst of Mars energy, which, you know, can be a wonderful thing or it can be a not so wonderful thing. We'll find that out next week. I think it's going to be pretty good, though. And everybody, of course, needs a good boost of energy in some ways. I know I could use 10 bottles of it some days. But the big thing is with this week is to really celebrate. Look back on this year that has just taken place and really look at what you've been able to accomplish. Don't do what most people do, and especially emotional water signs do, which is look at all the things you should have done but didn't this year, okay? I don't want you to do that. I want you to take a look back at all of the things you have done. What are your accomplishments? What did you do? What were you successful in 2015? This is going to give you a huge burst of energy right there to begin with, to help Mars kick in and really give you a fantastic burst of energy to move into the next year and get some pretty amazing things done for you also. Now, Mars is going to kick off this year and end this year in your sign, so you're going to have it on both sides. And this is a great boost for productivity and to do some awesome things coming up in 2016. So you guys, it's really time to take an inventory on some of the awesome things that you've been able to accomplish this year. Give yourself a pat on the back and celebrate them. You don't need everybody there celebrating with you. You just need to celebrate what you've done, because that is the most important celebration you're going to give to yourself all year long. So you guys, have a great week with that. Sagittarius, get ready for Venus to move into your sign on Wednesday this week. And Monday through Wednesday, the part of fortune is going to bring you some luck to boot. And who doesn't love luck? Luck is always good, especially when we're talking about luck in financial abundance and growth opportunities as well at the same time. Now, Venus, of course, is going to move pretty close into a conjunction with Saturn and is moving into that squared position with Neptune that Saturn is in also, and that is going to be a little bit tricky, especially when it feels like you don't really have the support that you would like to have in order to make this money or create these growth opportunities for yourself, or even just somebody there to maybe celebrate these milestones with, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, both Saturn and Venus are going to be in trine position with Uranus, reminding you that you are your own support system and you really don't need everybody there to support you. The ones that are there to support you, of course, are the most important people in the world, and they should be the most important people in the world. But the truth is, you don't need an army of support. You need you. You are your own support system. And no support is more important than that when you think about it. Now, when it comes down to it, and I have been told this by a Sagittarian at one time, as a matter of fact, Whatever it is that you do, you can feel it way down deep in your toes and be so proud of what you've accomplished. But if the person that you're telling this to has never felt that before, never been in that situation, how are you going to expect them to really understand what it is that you're going through? They can't possibly, because they haven't lived it. So this week, it really is time to really understand just how much of a support system you are to yourself. You are the most important support that you have, and you don't need anybody else to support you, because if you're looking for somebody else to support you and they're not supporting you, then honey, you're using that as an excuse to not do what it is that you need to do. And you don't want to do that. We want to throw those excuses out the window. So you guys, have a great week with that. Capricorn, happy birthday to all the Capricorns born this week, especially a couple of really important Capricorns in our lives. And we're going to start with cousin Laura, whose birthday is this Sunday, as a matter of fact. And I hope you have an absolutely fantastic birthday, Laura, because you just deserve to have one. I mean, you're just so cool and awesome and wonderful, and we just love you to pieces. And then, of course, also one of the number one most important people in my life, I should say one, because, you know, there's a couple of them, and that would be my grandmother. She's always been there for me. The one person who's always been there for me since the time that I was born, and always there for me, not because of what she could get out of it. She's always been there, and she's always loved me for me, even when we didn't always get along or agree on things. I love you to the moon and back, Grandma, and I just thank you so much for being my grandma, because I just don't know what I would have done without you if I didn't have you in my life. And for the rest of you Capricorns, it is a great week to be a Capricorn, I will say. You know, that old T-square with Mars and Uranus is there this week, and Mars is moving out of that aspect, but the moon comes in at the end of the week to kind of sort of finalize that aspect and make it a little bit more of a pain in the rear. But at the same time, Pluto, the Sun, and Mercury, who is about to leave your sign this week, right at the end of the week, as a matter of fact, are still in that trine position with Jupiter and the Moon in some cases. And we're talking big changes when it comes to your career. Now, we're also talking communication. And this week, before the Mercury retrograde sets in next week, which is in Capricorn, by the way, just to give you a little bit of a warning, this week, the communication and the way that you communicate is extremely important when it comes to those career goals. Make sure you communicate clearly your plans and what it is that you want to do. And it's not just this communication, your body language. Every single mode of communication is going to be important this week in order to make sure that people are aware of what it is that you want to do. You don't want to have miscommunications if you can avoid it. And trust me, next week, you won't be able to avoid it, unfortunately. It's Mercury retrograde time. We can't avoid that. But this week is a great week. There's lots of wonderful energy to really kickstart some amazing career goals and really start making things happen for 2016. And of course, that's exactly where you want to be. So you Capricorns this week, it's all about putting your nose to the grind. In true Capricorn way, of course, you Capricorns are the best at doing that kind of stuff. And remember, keep going until you hit the finish line, and then keep going more after that, because you never know what's at the other end of that finish line, and you don't want to set your sights on something and stop when there could be something even more awesome on the other side of that finish line. So you guys, have a great week with that. Aquarius, it's all about those who love and support you this week, and as everybody finds those instances where we don't feel very loved and supported, there is always that question of, why is this happening to me, right? Everybody goes through that, unfortunately. And Aquarians are no exception to the rule. Now, Aquarians are masters at hiding their feelings, and generally you don't know what an Aquarian is feeling. They're kind of like looking at Mr. Spock. They got an excellent poker face, and unless you piss them off, that's about the only emotion they're going to show for you. But hide their feelings or not, they still feel things on a very, very deep level. And I I can vouch for that because I am an Aquarian. Well, I would say unfortunately, but fortunately, I love being an Aquarian. But I don't like being an emotional Aquarian because it's kind of a weird, whacked out place. So Aquarians have a tendency to stuff those feelings deep down inside and hope that they just kind of sort of stay there and don't come back up again. And we all know that that's not going to happen, all right? I mean, let's just face the facts, shall we? This is one of the reasons why Aquarians tend to be loners and do everything themselves, because it's their own self-defense mechanism. If you don't ask for help, you'll never be let down. If you don't ask for support, you'll never be let down. And Aquarians are generally more than happy to be supportive of themselves for the most part, but we can't be loners all the time. These things are taking place because they are lessons for us on a deep level. So when you find yourself in that place of feeling unsupported by those around you, you really have to ask yourself why. Is this just because of the situation between you and this person presently, or does this stem from a much deeper level here? Are we talking about an old emotional root that really needs to be addressed and worked on? Because if you're finding this situation happening a lot, chances are it is living inside of you and it really wants to be dealt with, so that you don't have to deal with it anymore. So this week, it really is all about understanding why you feel the way that you do when it comes to people who are not as supportive as maybe you feel they should be. And understand why that is. Because the truth is, these little emotional roots are going to keep coming up until you figure out where the root comes from and deal with it and let those feelings go. So you guys have a great week with that. And finally, Pisces. Venus is going to join Saturn in that squared position with Neptune, which is in your sign, which is really kind of an annoying thing because this aspect is really going to make you feel like you don't deserve to have the things that you want or the things that you love. And it's really kind of a bummer when you think about it, especially when you tend to feel like because you're not doing good enough, you don't deserve to have these things. You always have to bring that back on yourself and kind of sort of beat yourself up over that. However, this week, Neptune's aspects with the Sun and Mars are showing you a completely different face here. Mars bringing you some energy when it comes to your relationships and really showing you what kind of energetic support you have when it comes to some of those relationships. And the Sun being in your house of goals and dreams, showing you just what you can accomplish and where you can shine when it comes to these goals and dreams. Now, money isn't everything. Number one, okay, we put way too much importance in money, and I know that we all need it in order to survive in this world, but it's still not everything, okay? You can survive without it for the most part, or with very little of it. And if you think you can't, just answer me this question. Are you dead yet? If you're not, and you're watching these horoscopes, you've survived being broke. So pat yourself on the back and congratulate yourself. I know I have. Because the truth is, I don't have a money tree growing in my backyard either. I wish I did, but I don't. Nobody does. So money is not everything. And money is not the thing that's going to stop you from being able to achieve these goals over and over and over again. There are other things out there that you can do that don't involve the money. So this week, take your mind off the money. Stop thinking about the money and beating yourself up over the money. For crying out loud, it is taking over your focus when you could be focused somewhere else. And the truth is, you got to make the most of that support around you, and you got to make the most of the opportunities to shine that are right there in front of you now that don't involve the money. The more you do this, the more the money becomes not so much of an issue. And when you're not worried about the money, believe it or not, it just kind of sort of rolls in without you paying attention to it. So you guys have a great week with that. Thanks for watching the horoscopes for this week. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Don't forget to check out our website. All the links are there in the description of the horoscopes. We've got no more 13 card tarot predictions, unfortunately, because they are officially closed now. But there's still so many exciting readings that you can get. And don't forget the classes. They're going to be starting up here within the next couple of weeks. Again, I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic, and I hope you guys Have a great week. I'll see you next week.